A crisp packet flows down the platform on Victoria Underground Station. With a bit of luck, there'll be a few crumbs left. But is it worth the risk? I've seen too many of my mates flattened under someone's shoe. I'm not sure the passengers were aware that they stepped on them. Years ago, it would have been worth the risk, but we tube mice that are vampire know better. Underground tube mice don't like above ground platforms. Too many things can go wrong, like being eaten by the station cat or swooped up by a hawk. Whereas underground, all we have to worry about is dodging city passengers as they participate in the stampede they call rush hour. I guess for normal vanilla mice, it must be hard, always worrying about humans, not to mention the food they find in green containers tucked away in nooks on the platform. I've seen hungry mice eat all those grains and then watch them die horrible, agonizing deaths that ended with them begging for a human to end their life with a quick, merciful stab. You might laugh that some would fall for those poison traps, but for all of us, life revolves around food. Sex is just something that has to be done. Where and when, and the chances of getting eaten by something when you're having a bit of nookie are high. However, when it comes to food, we vampire mice are different. We've evolved, and not only smarter, but our diet is not the same. Our blood meals mean we can last longer without having to forage. For us, chasing after crisp packets is more a sport than desperation. Okay, if we're really starving, we might drain a scrawny vanilla mouse to get some meager nutrition. So I hear you ask, where do we get most of our blood from? Well, from rats, which is a little tricky, as rats like to eat mice. But there's a certain frisson when the meal becomes the hunter. Of course, rat's blood is a poor substitute for humans. I mean, look at their diet. Ugh, like sticking your head down a toilet bowl. But they keep us going, and when there's no tasty human blood around. If their diet wasn't bad enough, they've often got nasty diseases, and you never know if they've eaten rat poison. Stupid animals. Just like the vanillas, they say rats are so clever. What a laugh. You'd never catch a vampire mouse eating poisoned food. However, there are times when we have to take our chances with rats. And sadly, a few vampire mice have met their end when feasting on a semi-comatose rat. Yes, human blood is tops. But I hear you asking, how on earth can we feast off humans? Wouldn't they feel it? Of course they would, silly. However, there are ways around which I'll tell you about now. For some reason, passengers get stupid when they're travelling. They seem to check in their brains at the ticket office, and then by some mysterious process, they collect their said brains at the arrival station. When they are brainless, they lose their temper at the drop of a hat, get drunk, get stuck in closing train doors, ask the station staff daft questions. That list is endless. However, the most serious thing that happens to them from their point of view is that they fall on the track or under trains. Sometimes they're pushed by one of their fellow species. Why this happens is beyond me. It's best when they fall under trains. Then we can have a feast before the spoilsport emergency rescue crews arrive. It's a bit of a rushed meal, but the blood is lip-smacking good. And sometimes we get quite dizzy and reckless. Fortunately, the crew are usually too focused on removing the body to bother about some mice scampering about. I often wonder if they notice the little puncture wounds made from our specially evolved teeth. However, there's another fun way we get our sustenance, and this shows how cunning we are. There are passengers even more brains than most, and that's saying something. They like to lean forward and watch the lights of a train approaching, and then step back as the train thunders into the station. And that's how my grandfather got his brilliant idea. Humans either love mice or hate them. They hate them when they're in their homes weeing and pooing all over the place, but love them in tube stations. There were cute little balls of fur, and sometimes if we're lucky, they throw us nuts and things. So the knack is to exploit this human weakness, and this is how Grandpa found out how to do it. It all started one evening. It was that time of year when passengers stagger around and the air is full of alcohol and are going home in a merry mood. One of them stared down at the track and said, "Oh look, there's two mice playing with each other." "Looks more like one is trying to shag the other," said his companion. "Can't say I've ever watched live mouse porn." He threw his empty crisp packet on the platform, but Grandpa ignored it. He had bigger game in mind. Grandpa heard an approaching train and decided to put on an act for said stupid humans. He and his mates ran around and squeaked and climbed on each other whilst being careful to avoid the live electric rail. "Oh, they're cute. How could people kill them?" "'Cause they're not veggie like you," said his mate. "You can't beat mouse on toast." He ignored him and leaned over to see if the mice had gone under the platform parapet. "Look, Jeff, I think those two want to make little..." The roar of the train drowned out everything, and there was a sickening hollow thud as the train hit his head in a splodge of red and flung his body into the suicide pit, or gourmet restaurant as Grandpa calls I and the rest of the tribe rushed into the pit to lap up blood from the shattered remains of the man's head. At least we wouldn't have to bite into the skin. We had to work quick, as it's sometimes difficult to suck blood out of a corpse, even if our saliva has evolved to contain anticoagulants like our vampire bat cousins. The blood was delicious. My grandpa said the man probably had been drinking wine, but not any cheap old plonk. He said vodka-infused blood was the nicest, a sort of rodent version of a Bloody Mary. Grandpa's dead now, but we still harvest those humans when we can. So next time when you see fluffy little mice cavorting and gambling and looking so mousy, be careful. They might be vampire tube mice headhunting you.